You are sitting in a quiet room. Someone starts chewing gum, or maybe they are eating chips. That sound, the wet, repetitive, smacking crunch, hits your ears, and suddenly something shifts inside you. Your jaw tightens. Your heart rate spikes. A wave of pure, hot irritation floods your chest. You want to scream. You want to leave. You want to tell them to stop. But you don't, because you know this reaction is irrational. It is just chewing. Everyone else in the room seems fine. So you sit there. You suffer in silence. And you wonder why this one sound has so much power over you. The surface answer is obvious. You find it annoying. Maybe you think the person is rude. Maybe you are just having a bad day. But the real answer is far stranger. It is not about manners. It is not about being overly sensitive. It is about your brain. A specific part of your brain is treating that harmless chewing noise like a direct threat to your survival. This is misophonia, and it changes everything. Why your brain betrays you. For people with misophonia, certain sounds are not just unpleasant, they are unbearable. The name comes from Greek, where misos means hatred and phonia means sound. Hatred of sound. It is a fitting name. The most common triggers are sounds made by the human mouth and nose. Chewing, slurping, swallowing, lip smacking, and breathing. But the list is much longer. Pen clicking, finger tapping, typing on a keyboard, foot tapping, knuckle cracking, clock ticking, water dripping, even repetitive sounds like a bird chirping or a frog croaking. The experience is visceral, and it is not an overreaction. It is a biological response. When you hear a trigger sound, your body reacts as if you're in danger. Your brain releases stress hormones. Your heart rate rises. Your muscles tense. You might sweat, feel hot, or experience a surge of panic or rage. This is a classic fight or flight response. It is the same system that would save you from a predator. But here, it is triggered by a colleague eating an apple. Where this response lies in your brain. You might assume this is an ear problem. It is not. Your ears are working perfectly. The problem is how your brain processes what your ears hear. Researchers have identified several key areas involved in misophonia. One is the anterior insular cortex. This is a region of the brain involved in processing emotions. It also helps you pay attention to important things and ignore distractions. In people with misophonia, when they hear a trigger sound, their anterior insular becomes highly active, much more active than in people without the condition. But it is not just one area. There is also abnormal communication between the auditory cortex, which processes sound, and several emotional and motor regions. One of the most fascinating discoveries involves a connection between the auditory cortex and a part of the brain called the orofacial motor cortex. This is the brain area that controls movement of the face, mouth, and throat. Think about that. The sound of someone chewing activates the part of your brain that would control you chewing. It gets even stranger. The same strong connection exists between the motor cortex and the visual cortex. This is why some people with misophonia can be triggered by seeing a leg swing or a finger point, even with no sound at all. The mirror neuron mystery. To understand why this happens, you need to know about mirror neurons. These are brain cells that activate when you perform an action, but they also activate when you watch someone else perform that same action. It is the reason you wince when you see someone get hurt. It is the reason you feel the thrill when watching a movie. Your brain mirrors the experience of others. Researchers believe that in misophonia, this mirror system is overactive. It is a supersensitized connection. When you hear a chewing sound, your brain is not just hearing it. You are almost experiencing it. The sound of the action is triggering the brain area that would control that same action. This creates a feeling of intrusion. The sound is not just an external noise. It feels like it is happening inside your own head. It is an invasion of your personal space. One way to manage this response is to mimic the action yourself. If you are bothered by someone chewing, you might find it helps to chew gum yourself. This gives your brain back a sense of control. It is as if your own movement can override the unwanted mirroring. The evolutionary echo. Why would your brain have this overactive system? Why would it treat a harmless sound as a threat? Some researchers believe the answer lies in our ancient past. Imagine your ancestors, thousands of years ago, sitting around a fire. They rely on each other for survival. They are constantly scanning for danger. One member of the group starts making a strange sound, a repetitive cough, a wet, smacking chew. In that environment, these sounds could signal illness. They could signal a threat to the group. An individual showing signs of sickness might be dangerous to be around. Your brain has an ancient alarm system for these signs. It is a survival mechanism. Jane Gregory, a prominent misophonia researcher, uses a powerful analogy. She compares it to meerkats. In a group of meerkats, there are super guards. These individuals are extra alert. They tune into subtle changes in their environment. They keep paying attention until they are sure there is no danger. For a meerkat, a rustle in the grass could be a predator. For your ancient ancestors, a rustle of a chip packet was probably less important for group survival. But the brain mechanism is the same. For people with misophonia, that ancient alarm system is simply too active. It treats the sound of chewing as a direct and immediate threat. The brain does not just say, "That's annoying." It screams, "That is a danger to the group." The personal connection. There is another layer to this. The response is not always universal. The brain can learn to associate a sound with a specific person or situation. If you grew up hearing a sound repeatedly during stressful times, like a family member tapping a pen during arguments, your brain may form a lasting negative association. Later in life, that same sound triggers the same stress response automatically. This is why the reaction can feel so personal. It often is personal. The feeling is often anger and disgust, not just annoyance. You might feel disgust toward the person making the sound. You might feel disgust towards their body. This could be an extension of the ancient health disgust response. There is also a psychological component. Misophonia is often linked to a sense of being trapped. You cannot control the sound. You cannot escape it. This loss of control amplifies the rage. The modern mirror. So, you are sitting in a meeting. Someone starts chewing loudly. Your body is in a state of high alert. Your brain is screaming danger. You cannot focus. You cannot think clearly. You might experience a surge of anger so powerful it shocks you. What happens next? You might leave the room. You might put on headphones. You might make a sarcastic comment. Or you might suffer in silence, feeling your blood pressure rise. This is the modern tragedy of misophonia. You are caught between an ancient, automatic brain response and the reality of modern life. You have to go to meetings. You have to eat with your family. You cannot avoid all triggers. And you often feel shame and guilt. You know the reaction is unreasonable. The person is just eating, but you cannot control it. This internal conflict is exhausting. Your relationships suffer. You might avoid social situations. Eating together, a fundamental human bonding activity, becomes a source of stress and conflict. The final truth: you are not crazy. When the sound of chewing makes you angry, it is not a character flaw. It is not a sign of being overly sensitive. It is a neurological reality. It is an ancient alarm system, a hyperconnected brain, and a personal history colliding in a single moment. The noise triggers a cascade of events in your brain, a cascade designed to protect you from harm. But instead of protecting you, it is robbing you of your peace. Understanding this is a first step. It does not make the sound stop. It does not make the anger disappear. But it gives you something important, a shift in perspective. The anger is real. The struggle is real. And now you know why. Your brain is simply wired differently. And that awareness is your first tool. It is the tool that can help you separate the sound from the threat. And maybe over time, it can help you turn down the volume of that ancient alarm. Because the sound is just a sound, but your power to understand it, that is yours alone.